What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of Washed Up Wednesday. As always, I'm your host, Jordan Lalby. Usually we're here every Wednesday at 6:30. Had to push it back a little bit. I am training for a new job this week, so that's pretty good. Also, why we're in a hotel room all the way up in New Hampshire. So thank you guys for tuning in. I know it was a change on short notice, but as always, for always showing up, always giving me support, that's what I like to see. Let's get right down into business. We always talk about anything that happens in the NFL, whether it be news, trades, game results, injuries, whatever the case may be. This week was nothing short of that. Let's get right into the Pats. They have a lot of Spygate 2.0 stuff going on for them, which a lot of people did not expect to happen, or some people did, who knows. But they allegedly filmed the Bengals sideline during their practices and during their games. The Patriots themselves did not do it. They are claiming that an outside source did it not on the Patriots' behalf, but it was for a show that was happening. Do your job. Ooh, excuse me. I lowered the chair on myself. But the crazy part is that allegedly there's 8 straight minutes of film of them just panning the sideline back and forth, which a lot of people are like, hey, why aren't you doing anything about that? Why is this being allowed? This is obviously wrong. They're spying on play calls. They're spying on call signs and stuff like that. So a lot of people are up in arms about that. The league is currently investigating it. There's still no final conclusion. If they are found guilty, I'm pretty sure they'll lose a first-round pick this year, which is usually the punishment that they do. Not that they need a first-round pick anyways. Look how N'Keal Harry's playing. Even though he's been hurt, still hasn't done much since he's been back. I don't know if that's a Brady issue or a N'Keal Harry issue. We'll talk a little bit more about that because there's some crazy, crazy stuff that's happening in the league as regards to officiating. But yeah, all in all, they said it was done by an outside film crew and all of that. The injuries this week are insane. A lot of big-time players. First and foremost, Adam Vinatieri on IR with a leg injury. He is most likely that's probably going to be the end of his career, especially with how he's been kicking this season. So do not expect Adam Vinatieri back next year. It's crazy if he will be back, but I'm not putting it past him there. Mike Evans done for the year. Rashad Penny done for the year. Weston Richburg, the really good center for the 49ers, done for the year. Marquise Goodwin done for the year, also wide receiver for the 49ers. Calvin Ridley for the Falcons done for the year. Roquan Smith having one of the best seasons that a linebacker's had this year. He's done for the year. Alshon Jeffrey on IR. He's done for the year. A lot of craziness going on with who's hitting the IR, who's basically done for the season, all happening this week, right when the playoff crunch is coming, when a lot of teams are making that final push. Not good news for a lot of teams in the league, especially teams like the Eagles, who are just on the cusp, who are now tied with the Cowboys record-wise. That's bad news for the Bears, who are still vying for a wild card spot pending they win out. Rashad Penny with that great 1-2 running attack that the Seahawks have. You saw how big their running game got hit when he came out of the game early on. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, the best, most likely best receiving duo in the league this year. He's done. So what's it's going to mean for Chris Godwin's production? How is the Buccaneers offense going to form with him gone? Brashad Perriman might step up. Who knows? Maybe we'll see the first-round talent he actually is come out on the field. Who knows? Weston Richburg, what's going to happen to that very good 49ers offensive line? He is the anchor in all that, and now you lose him. You also lose Marquise Goodwin, one of the fastest players in the league. Doesn't do much for you stat-wise, but makes a lot of mismatches, pulls a lot of attention away from different players, and he's been an exceptional – I know they don't really show run and blocking by wide receivers often because they're usually off-screen, but from what they show on the replays, he's making very good stock blocks. He's pushing guys to the sideline. He's chipping up linebackers in the middle to create those spaces for Mostert, Coleman, and Breida on the outside. So he's done a great job, but a lot of guys just getting hurt that should not be in that position and do not want to be in those positions for their teams, especially with how their teams have been performing this year. So that is tough to see. I am going to pull up a cute little stat on my phone, getting away from injuries more towards stats, and a player who I think this year and a lot of people think has not been great, but statistically it's very similar to a future Hall of Famer, Peyton Manning. Let's get right into it. Peyton Manning in 2001, his fifth season, his fourth season at age 25, 26 passing touchdowns on the season, 4,131 passing yards, 23 interceptions, 6 pick sixes, and only 6 wins with an 84.1 QBR and a 62.7% completion percentage. I'm going to read off the stats of another player. I'm not going to say who it is yet, but I'm going to read his stats. He's 25 in his 5th season, 26 passing touchdowns, 4,115 passing yards, which is 2nd in the NFL, 23 interceptions, the same as Peyton Manning, 5 pick sixes, 1 less than Peyton, 6 wins, which is the same, better QBR, 84.9, 61.3 completion percentage, which is a whole percentage point less than Peyton and change. Jack Bradley, you were exactly correct. He just texted me. Jameis Winston has the same exact stats right now as Peyton Manning had at the same exact age. A lot of people are saying, get him out of Tampa Bay. He hasn't proven himself as a quarterback. He's been bad year after year. He sucks, and they look at raw stats. When you look at the film, he does make some bad throws. You can't take that away from him. Early in his career, Peyton Manning was the same way. Made some bad throws. He had bad records his first couple of years, but then figured out the system. And because they built a team around him and a coach came in that knew how to handle quarterbacks and had previous success in the NFL, then he started to get better and better. I'm not saying Bruce Arians is coming back next year because he might retire again. I don't think he might be in it for the long haul. I don't know how many more years he has left, but he is the quarterback whisperer. He took a shady Carson Palmer and made him a better quarterback when he came to Arizona. He made that whole Arizona offense click a lot better, and I experienced that firsthand being a Cardinals fan. They got better and better, and besides his last 2 seasons, they were a contender for a long time, even with backup players playing. We had not Ryan Finley, I think Dan Finley, some Ryan Quigley. That's who it was. We had him against the Carolina Panthers in a playoff game. We had a 3rd-string quarterback who barely played starting, and we only lost that game by 14 points. He didn't perform great, but he put those guys in those situations to perform well on top of him not being great. So that is a testament to Bruce Arians as a coach. He's taken a Buccaneers team that was coming into the season one of the worst projected pass rush defenses. They have Shaq Barrett, who is leading the league in forced fumbles and strip sacks. He also has 14.5 sacks right now, which is tied for 1st in the league, or is 1st. That just tells you right there the type of energy that he brings to the team and what he can do. Granted, he's not running the defense, but he's still the head coach and oversees it and sees different things that can be installed. Sean Bunting Murphy was a nobody cornerback that no one knew about going into the draft, and now is arguably the best rookie cornerback in the NFL this year. Just based on pure raw production and PFF grade. Check those out. He's doing really well. But with that being said, give Jameis time. They're building that squad around him. He has an injured and a little battered offensive line. He doesn't have the best running game in the world, regardless of how Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones stats appear. The play-by-play, it's either a 1-yard run or they blast it off for 50. There's literally nothing in between. Ronald Jones needs to do better as a pass blocker if he wants to become that starting back in that offense. But with that being said, give Jameis the weapons, give him time. Chris Godwin is emerging as a true number 1 receiver as Mike Evans is hitting not the second half of his career, but he's starting to get hurt a little bit more frequently. He's getting a little older. You ride these two as long as you can as your number 1 and number 2. Figure out what's wrong with O.J. Howard. Find a good slot receiver. Get a stronger running game. Maybe get 1 more offensive lineman. That Buccaneers defense is going to figure everything out and give Jameis the weapons he needs to succeed. And that's what's going to happen with him. Getting into reffing, because it was awful this week. There was no exception to that. If you saw my Instagram story, you know exactly what I'm talking about. N'Keal Harry, that was a clear touchdown. Stephon Gilmore, that should have been a fumble recovery for a touchdown. And the non-pass interference call towards the end of the game on Rashad Breeland was absolutely terrible. They need to fix the calls in and out. And the league is actually doing a top-down examination of every single referee and every single crew. That is including those in charge, Alberto Riveron. We'll see what happens with him. I hope he gets canned because he is killing the league with these challenges and not overturning them when they should be overturned, when us at home are seeing the same exact things that they're seeing. And there's no transparency with how bad Alberto has been this year. So We'll see what happens with him. We'll see what happens with the league. But now that we're at the 10-minute mark, I want to get into something that I think has been very controversial and something that I've been kind of teeter-tottering on which side I am. So I'm not going to say this should happen or this shouldn't happen. I'm going to present the facts. Let's talk about Mike Vick and why he's the Pro Bowl captain and why he should or shouldn't be a Pro Bowl captain. This might trigger a couple of people, but it's a podcast. I'm just going to give the straight facts. I might have an opinion on it. I might not. We'll see. But let's get into Mike Vick. Back in 2007, he was running a dog fighting ring on one of his properties. This wasn't just throw two dogs in and see what happens. He was taking his trained pit bulls for fighting, putting them in the ring against house dogs, against golden retrievers, against labs, against dogs that have no experience fighting. This is saying nothing on pit bulls. That is all how you train your dog. It could have been any dog in that ring. Could have been an Akita. It could have been a lab. Could have been a bigger dog. It could have been anything. It's how you train them. That's all I'm going to say on the dog that side of it. But he's putting trained fighting dogs into the ring against dogs that have no idea how to fight. And if his dog somehow lost, he would put spark plugs on his ears, put them in the water, turn on the electricity, and they would get electrocuted to death. He would hang them. He would cut off their tongues. He would cut off their lips. He would beat them up. And this wasn't just Mike Vick. This was anyone that was involved in whatever he was doing. So that's not to take anything away from Mike Vick and put the blame elsewhere, but it was a collective group of people that all should have been found guilty of what was going on. There are a lot of other things that happened. I'm not going to go into too much detail. You can read up on it. You can find out all the information you want. He did his time. He did 18 months in jail and was allowed to come back into the NFL. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily, but that was the time that he was given. He did serve that time, and the league did allow him to come back. Whether that's right or wrong, that's neither here nor there. That's what happened, and that's the reality we have to live with. Since then, he was part of the bill passing, and he was an advocate of the bill to make dog fighting and any animal cruelty a federal crime, which is now getting passed into that point and will become a federal law very shortly. He was part of that discussion, and he was one of the people that actually came forward with his money and with this power and said, we need to make this a law. He reflected on what he did 12 years ago and said, this needs to change. I was in the wrong. I was a bad person. And I made the changes to go forward and see what I can improve in this community and see what I can improve the law on. So this way, this doesn't happen again, especially at the level that I saw it happening in. Because if this is happening for someone who already has a full-time job as an NFL athlete, this has got to be happening with people who are making a bunch of money on this as their career and are doing it in places where this is not nearly as critically surveyed as this was. So this has got to be happening on a much larger scale. And he said, this needs to stop. I want to grow from this. I want to learn from this. Am I saying we need to forget this? No, because we cannot forget it. We know what happened. We know the cases that are here. We saw the pictures. We've seen the case report. We've seen the videos. We saw the news headlines. We've seen everything. But that doesn't mean we can't forgive him for what he did, because he has grown from it. He's shown that he can still be a good person in the community, regardless of what happened 12 years ago, regardless. Do I agree with what he did? No. Do I agree that he got back into the NFL? No. But it happened. He got back into the NFL. He got onto ESPN. He got onto NFL Network, and now he's a Pro Bowl captain, and now the outrage hits 12 years later when you can't change what happened. He served the time that he was given. He did everything that he needed to do. Off that point, I don't condone any dogfighting. I don't condone what the league's decision was with him. I don't condone his decisions, but I do condone that he's made a choice and he's made a change, because that's something that a lot of people refuse to do, is make change. For better or for worse, people are just not natures of change. We're creatures of habit. We like to stick with the same routine. We like to do what we like doing. Whether it's right, whether it's wrong, that's who we are as human beings. And he's chosen to say, hey, this is bigger than me. I need to make a change, and I need to go out there and do everything that I can. So all the people that are freaking out right now, 12 years after everything happened, people were definitely not as vocal on social media as they were back then. So a lot of people kept that to themselves. But to start saying it now, like you've been saying this has been like that you have thought this for the past 12 years, I'm going to call you out on that, because that's the problem with how our society is functioning and how we're functioning as human beings is we're taking this to a whole nother level where you read one article or two articles and you form your whole opinion on that. Look at all the results, look at all the research, and get down to the hardcore facts, because that is what is going to make us better as a country, better as a people, and make sure stuff like this with Michael Vick doesn't happen ever again, where we have a clear-cut description of what the time is that they have to serve, what the punishment is, if they're allowed back into something and whether they're not. So please take that. That is not a call out at a specific person. That is a clear-cut view on our society as a whole, what the NFL is doing, what organizations, just regular companies are doing for employees, allowing them to come back into society after something like this happens. Anyone can change. That's plain out and simple. That's what I'm going to leave it at. I know I went off on a little 5-6 minute tangent there. Needed to get that off my chest because as someone that has made my own personal changes in my life, and I'm not saying I did anything wrong, but making changes throughout my life and seeing that people are ridiculing someone for also making a change in their life, even though they did something incredibly harsh, I wouldn't want to see that. If I know I'm making an active change on something that I did in my own personal life and I want to make it better, no matter if I'm the most popular person in the world or no one knows who I am, I would hate being in that position where people are shooting at me for something I did 12 years ago, whether it was right, whether it was wrong, no matter how bad it was or how good it was. I don't want to get ridiculed for a person who I'm not even am anymore. So let's get this stigma out of our heads that, oh, people are the same no matter what they do or what they did 10, 20, 30 years ago defines who they are as a person now, because people can change. People do make those active decisions every single day to get better and to change who they are about themselves. That's going to end my rant on that. I know that went on way longer than it should have, but that has been eating at me. I've told a couple of people I don't think he should be a Pro Bowl captain. I've told a couple of people that maybe he should because he has made those changes. My mind isn't right now made up on it. So you can come at me and say, well, you don't even know what you think. I can take that. But with that being said, the league has made the decision they made. Mike Vick made the decisions he's made, and he's made changes based on those decisions and based on what he wants to be. That's it. I'm going to leave it there. Let's get back right into football. Game of the week. Let's get right into it. I thought game of the week and game of the year has to be the 49ers and the Saints. Back and forth offenses all day long. Saints come in with one of the best defenses in the NFL. That was not going to stop the Saints. Saints defense has been stifling offenses all year. That wasn't going to stop the 49ers. This is two powerhouse teams going at it. This is going to be the NFC Championship matchup. Pending everything works out, that the 49ers hold on to their top seed in the NFC West, and pending that, well, the Saints have clinched. They own the NFC South. They're going to keep that there. But this is just two powerhouse teams going at it. Both teams suffered a couple of injuries along the way. Marcus Davenport is also out for the year for the Saints. But just a great game back and forth. George Kittle, an absolute monster. I thought there should have been a PI call on Emmanuel Sanders when he caught that long touchdown. It kind of looked like he shoved Marcus Williams away, but not really. Can't really get a good gauge there. But overall, a great game between the 49ers and the Saints. My honorable mentions this week, Eagles beating the Giants in overtime. Although it seemed like a boring game, it did pick up in the second half. Eli Manning, this was his return. It looked like they were going to win it with how great their defense was playing. Carson Wentz looked kind of shocked back there against a team that doesn't have the best pass rush. Again, a lot of injuries at receiver. Guys just were failing to get open, and guys were just not performing the way they needed to perform, except Zach Ertz. He was playing great. But again, just a very good game, the very good divisional rivalry game. Boston Scott put his name on the map, scored a touchdown there. Zach Ertz continued to be dominant. Eli showed that he could still sling it around. He had a couple of throws that were errant that still got caught, but still showing he can lead a team and show that, hey, the Giants are good enough to compete and stay in games, because that's what they've been struggling with all the years, staying in games. He comes in and says, hey, I got the weapons. Let's go and make this happen. Let's go and do something with it. Saquon Barkley starting to get a little bit better, making better bounces on the outside. You can tell that his ankle still is bothering him, but not nearly as much as it was. So that's good for Saquon there. Great job by the Eagles getting the overtime win and making that NFC East race even tighter. Last honorable mention, I got the Bears beating the Cowboys. Mitch Trubisky looked like a dog out there. He looked very good, very efficient. A lot of people have been saying Mitch Trubisky can't throw the ball. He sucks. He can't do this. Yeah, he made a very bad throw in the back left corner of the end zone, but that was just a great play on the interception. I want to say that was Xavier Woods. Do not quote me on that, but that was a great interception towards the back, not the back of the end zone, but back of the front part of right in front of the end zone. Let's get my language straight there. But I thought that was great. But either way, he came back and showed that he could sling it around. Anthony Miller, absolute beast throughout the game. He did a very good job. Cowboys defense did not look good against a very shaken up Bears offense. Their offense did not look any better. Now, the Bears defense looked like the Bears of old from last year, going against one of the most efficient offenses in the league of the Cowboys. So that was a great game to watch, that the Bears are finally finding their identity again. The Cowboys clearly struggling. Jason Garrett looks lost. He definitely looks like he's losing his job right there. So we'll see what happens with the Bears and Cowboys going forward. Hopefully the Cowboys can hold that first place spot. Sorry, Ryan. I just want to see the Cowboys make it. Sorry to hear Eagles, but that's the way it is. Let's hit surprises of the week. How about the Broncos and Drew Lock going in and beating Deshaun Watson and the Texans? That was unbelievable. That was a great game to watch. He just came out and absolutely dominated. I liked his little Buzz Lightyear celebration that he did after every touchdown he threw. He could throw the deep ball. He could throw the short ball. Did great on his play action fakes. We'll talk about Drew Lock a little bit later, but he did an absolutely phenomenal job. Alexander Johnson and Kareem Jackson are the heart and soul of that Broncos defense right now. Chris Harris, as great of a corner he is, he's kind of a subsidiary right now in that defense. He makes plays when he needs to, but he is not the highlight. The highlight has been Kareem Jackson and Alexander Johnson. Since Johnson has stepped into that defense and became the starting middle linebacker, he has absolutely transformed how they play. He is forcing fumbles. He's putting himself in the backfield, and he's not just letting guys run over him. He's sticking the wood to players when he meets them in the hole and meets the quarterback in the pocket. He's done a great job. Kareem Jackson, a monster. He had a fumble 6 on the defensive lineman, gave it to him. He took it all the way the other way. He had a great hit on DeAndre Hopkins on a third down. That's the hardest hit I've seen this year. Jordan Hicks this week was also a close second, but that was a massive hit to a massive player in DeAndre Hopkins. Great job, Kareem Jackson. Texans just need to fix a few things on the defense, fix a few things on the offense, had some miscues here and there. Deshaun Watson, this was definitely one of his worst games of the year. But again, the Broncos have gotten much better as a defensive unit. Earlier in the year, you can go back to my videos. I said, hey, this is a bad defense. They have completely changed as the year's gone on. And I believe Vic Fangio has definitely been the catalyst for that to happen. So Broncos keeping it up. Let's see if they keep this winning streak going. Honorable mention, surprise of the week, the Chiefs beating the Pats. Very rarely do the Pats lose at Gillette, but even rarer do they drop 2 games in a row, and that's what they've done the past 2 weeks. Patrick Mahomes came back looking like his old self. Even though his stats didn't show it, he was making some good throws against a very hard Patriots defense. The run game just needs to open up a little bit more, and they'll figure it out. I like the little trick, not trick plays, but the trick formations and the weird packages they're doing with Travis Kelce now, putting him in the backfield more, not as a running back, but more as a fullback to go out and release or go out and get a block. And they even brought that to another level, putting him at the quarterback spot, doing a read option play and taking it in for a quick 4-yard touchdown. So the Chiefs and Andy Reid, even with all their injuries, are figuring out the pieces on offense that they need to. Mecole Hardman, absolute speed demon. You're not going to catch him in a one-on-one race. Might be just as fast as Tyreek Hill. It'd be cool to see them in a foot race. Obviously, Tyreek would win, but looking real good. Tom Brady, he's not looking that great. The running game is not looking great either, but the defense going against one of the best offenses still looked very good. Last surprise of the week, how about the Rams beating the Seahawks? Seahawks just looked like absolute dog out there. They did not look good. They looked very out of sync, especially the defense. I don't know if Jadeveon Clowney was taking himself out of the game, but there were times they got past the 50-yard line and Jadeveon Clowney came out. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if he just didn't want to be in. I don't know if it was just a rotational thing. Maybe they saw something in film. I would have to look at the game a little closer, but I just do not think it was either a great decision by Jadeveon or a great decision by the coaching staff to take him out in those crucial situations. But either way, he just looked really lazy out there. We'll talk about him in a little bit. But the Rams offense is looking like the Rams that we saw the past 2 or 3 years. Jared Goff was finally hitting his stride, hitting receivers on good throws. Todd Gurley, that nasty stiff arm on Shaquille Griffin, looked real sharp out there. Quandre Diggs also had a really good game. He's been playing better and better as the weeks have gone on and is becoming one of the top safeties in the league, especially as a versatile safety where he can play in the box or play deep. Had a big pick six there. So look for him to start shining as they make their playoff push and maybe make a big play in the playoffs. We'll see what happens. But with 5 minutes left in the show, let's very quickly run through the peakers and leakers. Peaker, honorable mention, I got Austin Eckler. He's the first 100-yard rusher and the first 100-yard receiver in the same game. Had a great 84-yard screen touchdown. Got the ball a lot more, and look what the Chargers did. They absolutely ran up the scoreboard on the Jaguars. So give Eckler the ball more. Maybe you win some more games. Maybe you make the playoffs. I know they're out of it, but maybe do that, 4 games ago, and you're in the playoffs. Who knows? Mitch Trubisky, he's my number 3. Talked about him earlier, 23 for 31, 244 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick, along with a 115.5 QBR. And he was 10 for 63 on the ground with a great touchdown. Great read option, went for 30 yards, looked real crisp there. Great job, Mitch Trubisky, finally hitting his stride and looking like he did last year. Darius Leonard, number 2, we've been waiting to hear about this guy since last season. Defensive Rookie of the Year, first-team All-Pro linebacker, and now, second team, not first team, excuse me there. But 9 tackles, he had a TFL, 2 pass deflections, 2 picks, and a touchdown. Big for them. Even though the Colts did lose, he was a big factor on why they were shutting down the Tampa Bay's offense. Number 1 peaker, this should be no surprise, Drew Lock. 22 for 27, 309 yards. 3 touchdowns. He did throw a pick that did look pretty bad, but outside of that, 136 QBR and 3 for 15 on the ground. I hit the chair again. He looked really good, really showing that he is ready to be the starting quarterback. He's ready to be the franchise quarterback. Yes, it's a small sample size, but what we've seen on film, he's taking absolute control of this offense and using all the weapons that he can. A couple of peakers that did miss. There were a lot of names I wanted to put on here this week. Darius Slayton from Monday night looked really good. Deontay Johnson also looked very good. Danielle Hunter, fastest player to reach 50 sacks. He looked incredible, and he is a very underrated defensive lineman. I would put him top 5 pass rusher in the league right now, and he is not getting the love that he deserves. So those were a couple of guys I thought would have been very good peakers on this list, but a couple of guys played better, in my opinion, on film and on paper. Let's get into the leakers, the guys did not look good on film or on paper. How about Fred Warner as an honorable mention, number 1? Coming off NFC Defensive Player of the Month, played some of the best football of his life, and did not do good against the Saints. Alvin Kamara broke a tackle from him 3 times. Michael Thomas broke 2 tackles, led up a touchdown to Jared Cook. Had 3 tackles on the day and a pass deflection. Got beat in coverage a couple times. Not the best way you want to look after winning NFC Defensive Player of the Month. Number 3, talked about him earlier, Jadeveon Clowney, only 2 tackles, jogged on a lot of plays. He whiffed on a sack really bad on Jared Goff. And this is against the Rams offensive line, which is bottom 5 in the league this year, even with how McVay uses his little zone schemes with how they slide on play action and stuff like that. Just couldn't get back there, couldn't do anything. Seahawks looked very bad on defense, and that starts with Jadeveon getting pressure there. Number 2, we're going to keep it on the defensive side. And on the same side of the defense, DeMarcus Lawrence looked really bad against a broken Bears offensive line and an offense that hasn't played great. Only 2 tackles, got in the backfield on only 2 pass rushes, never got into the backfield on a run unless they just let him run free. And if they did, it was going away from him or he was being read by Trubisky. Just did not look good. Again, starts with him. Starts with that defensive end, getting the pass rushes, getting the stops, getting the TFLs. Jadeveon and DeMarcus, 2 of the best in their position to do it, and they did not come to the table in both their games against 2 of the worst offensive lines in the league. Number 1 leaker, though, a lot of you are going to be mad. I got to give it to Tom Brady. 19 for 36, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 2 for 20 on the ground, but a 63.3 QBR. We're a couple of guys more deserving at number 1 at the quarterback spot. I don't know. I don't think so. On paper, maybe, but when you look at the film, and Kurt Warner does a great job breaking this down from a couple of weeks ago, has receivers open, just isn't throwing him to him. Edelman was open probably 5 times and just looked at him and then looked off to a guy who was tightly covered and chucked it to him anyways, or threw it away, or took a sack. Brady did not look like the same Brady that he normally is. He hasn't looked like the same Brady that he's been all year. He's been avoiding the peaker list or the leaker list because I said, you know what? He's going to figure it out. They're going to hit their stride. They're going to do good. They're playing the Chiefs. They're very bad on defense and just absolutely terrible. Did not come out, did not play great. Frank Clark had the best game of his season so far. Emmanuel Ogbah played very well. Chris Jones stuffed the interior. Reggie Ragland's finally figuring it out. Tyrann Mathieu flying around the field. So, yes, the Chiefs just happen to have one of the best games on defense in a long time. But Brady has to rise to the occasion at home. Not a primetime game, but still Sunday night-ish against a team that might end up taking away that 3rd seed from you. Got to figure it out, Patriots. I don't know what's going on. I think it all starts with Brady. Got to make the right throws, got to make the right reads, got to do everything he can to make that happen and make sure that they're in the best position to win games that they can. Let's get into weekly picks. I was 11 for 5 last, I was 11 for 5 last. No, 10 for 6. Excuse me. I was 10 for 6, putting me at 124, 83-1 on the season. So the game picks are, they're there. We're doing a good job with it. But let me just pull up my phone real quick. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me a text, shoot me a little message on here. I can't see it, so that's probably not the best decision. But I know we're a little bit over time here, but keep tuning in. 6:30 every Wednesday. We'll be back at my place next week. So get a little more consistency in the show. Keep it at that 6:30 time slot, and we'll have the show a lot more fluid going into next week. But going into this week's picks, Thursday Night Football tomorrow night, Ravens against the Jets. Is that a question? I think Ravens are definitely going to win unless somehow Jamal Adams comes back and starts playing a lot better like he was a couple of weeks ago and the Jets defense turns it up another notch. I doubt that'll happen. Lamar Jackson was dealing with a couple of injuries this week, but he is not the whole team. Might be the whole offense, but that defense is a lot better than people give them credit for. I'm giving it to the Ravens tomorrow night. They advance to 12-2. I got the Packers beating the Bears in the divisional game, knocking the Bears out of playoffs most likely. No ways the Packers lose at Lambeau. They beat the Bears at Soldier Field earlier this year. I think they do the same thing here coming back to Lambeau. They beat the Bears, especially with how the Packers have been playing as of late. Patriots beating the Bengals. We're on to Cincinnati. Chiefs beating the Broncos. I know Drew Lock's riding a hot hand. He's got the Broncos 5-8 on a 2-game win streak, but not going to happen here. Chiefs get the big win. They ride that hot hand that they had against the Pats. Buccaneers are going to go in and beat the Lions. Like I said, Jameis Winston's figuring it out. Even without Mike Evans, they're still going to be able to torch the Lions defense. Lions just look like a bad team this year. We'll see what happens with Matt Patricia. Texans, Titans, this is a crazy game. Ryan Tannehill was someone else I said should have been a peaker. Didn't mention it earlier, but he should be a peaker. And this is going to give them sole possession of first place in the AFC South. They're going to go in and beat the Texans. It'll be a close game, but Ryan Tannehill is going to further solidify that he's the quarterback of the future for the Titans, even though he is 31. That a lot of people don't know he is that old. Giants are going to come home. They're going to beat the Dolphins. I know the Dolphins have won games that they shouldn't win, but the Giants are going to figure it out. Daniel Jones may be taking this game off, gave him a chance to reflect and say, hey, look at what Eli's doing. Let me go and replicate that and see what happens. Eagles are going to beat the Redskins, go to 7-7, make that playoff race even tighter. I got the Seahawks beating the Panthers. Panthers just look lost out there. Christian McCaffrey, he's still in there for the MVP race, but not really, so he's not going to do much. I got the Browns beating my Cardinals. Sad day. We're going to be 10 losses on the year again, so that sucks. But Browns making that final playoff push. We'll see what happens. Raiders are going to go in and beat the Jaguars. Jaguars just look terrible, so that's a no-brainer. Vikings are going to go in and beat the Chargers. Vikings just have too good of a team to lose, so we'll see more there. 49ers are going to go in and beat the Falcons. Even though the Falcons just had that big win, 49ers had an even bigger win against a team in the same conference. Go in and get a win, 49ers. This is going to be a great game. Rams at the Cowboys. I got the Cowboys winning this one. Rams past 2 games have been hot. Cowboys need that spark and they need that fuel and that energy to push them into the playoffs. This is the game that gets them in. Come back home. Come back to your home turf. Feed Zeke. Get the run game going. Open up the pass game. Kellen Moore, figure it out with that offense, and the defense needs to play better. DeMarcus Lawrence, I think, can have a big game, but he needs to put in a bigger effort than what Jadeveon Clowney did last week, and we'll see how that reflects. But I got the Cowboys beating the Rams, holding on to the NFC East first place spot. Sunday night, what an awesome game. The Bills in primetime at Heinz Field against the Steelers. That's the reason why the Steelers win. They're at Heinz Field, one of the hardest places to win. Mike Tomlin, very good coach, has proven a lot of people wrong. He's winning with a third-string quarterback, winning with second-string, third-string running backs and receivers. Playing with a defense, this is the best Steelers defense in a long time. Minkah Fitzpatrick playing very well. TJ Watt, some of the best football in his career, alongside with Bud Dupree, who is shining, having the best year of his career. Cameron Hayward absolutely anchoring that defensive line. Devin Bush looking like one of the best young linebackers in the league. And they're figuring it out on all cylinders. Steelers get this win on Sunday night. And on Monday night, the Saints play the Colts. Got to give this to the Saints. Colts need to figure it out. I don't know if Jacoby is the answer. He hasn't been playing very good the second half of the season. Looked very good the first 7 games, but since then has looked absolutely terrible. Give this one to Drew Brees and the Saints as they further push and try to get a bye week or get a first seed in the NFC. We'll see what happens with them. But with that being said, that is going to do it for Washed Up Wednesdays this week. We'll be back at the normal time, 6:30 next week. We'll be back in my place, so that'll make it a lot easier to stay consistent with this. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Share this on your Facebook. Share this with your friends. Send it to your mom and dad. Let them know that this is the show that you want to hear everything about when it comes to the NFL. Maybe and hear something controversial like the Michael Vick spiel I had earlier in the show. That's going to go over very well, I think. But thank you again so much for tuning in. Thank you for all the support that you guys have given me. As always, my name is Jordan Labby. This is Washed Up Wednesdays. Have a great night, ladies and gentlemen. Cool.